here. So let me go ahead and share my screen. And I am working off of 2 monitors. So if for some reason you don't see me looking at the camera at times, I might be looking at you because I've got my Zoom screen on my other monitor that doesn't have the camera. Okay, so again, Pikeland teachers should have received the email. And it looks like Jacqueline's putting in chat that if you need that sign-in sheet for Pikeland, Jacqueline says she can send it to you. Thank you, Jacqueline. And then also, again, no matter if you're from Pikeland or whatever school district you are from, I need you to fill out the sign-in sheet here on slide 2. I did put it in chat as well. And on this sheet, if you're accessing it from the Google slide deck, you can click on this link here. You click on the word sign in, and then underneath it, the link pops up. If you're not in presentation mode, just click on that link and that will take you to the Google form. If we were in person today, it would be what you would be filling out as you came in so that you can get your PD hours for today. So fill this out. And when you fill this out, then I also like to see real time the data, what you're expecting out of today's workshop. So I can bring up the spreadsheet here of your responses, and so you can see, and then I can also kind of get an idea of what you want out of here. As soon as this opens, I will scroll over so we don't see your names. So I'll show you that momentarily here. The other thing I want to show you, I'll show you in a second after you fill out the sign-in sheet, how to add this slide deck to your Google Drive, to your bookmark. If anybody else wants to put in chat or unmute and tell us how you saved your Google slide deck, there could be other ways out there that you can share with us as well, because that's one great thing about technology. It does help you differentiate with all of the different students that you have come to you in your classroom. Another thing, your ISB evaluation, that will come from Pikeland teachers, that will come from Pikeland, from Angie. Everyone else, your ISB evaluation will come from the ROE one. As long as I send them the sign-in sheet by the end of today, you should get that within the next 24 to 96 hours. If you were on the workshop, if you were in the workshop with us yesterday, you should have received that. I think they sent it out this morning. And then also at the end, I have a short, I think 3 or 4 question evaluation here for you to fill out as well. So the workshop recording, it will be on the YouTube channel that you will be able to access later. Jacqueline or Angie, I know Angie's going back and forth between 2 meetings, but Jacqueline or Angie, anything else you want to say for the Pikeland teachers?
Oh, I think we're pretty good, so.
Okay, perfect. Feel free to interrupt, jump in at any time if there is anything. So Tanya, real quick, yeah, the sign up sheet for everybody is the only one shared in the link. So it's also here on slide 2, number 1. So Pikeland teachers, we're doing something separate. So it's everything you see on my screen is everything that you need. And it was also in the chat. So thank you for asking. And again, I won't always be able to see your questions in the chat. So we've got lots of other educators out there that will step up, help out, and feel free to use the chat as another means for you to learn today. So real quick on this workshop warm-up response here, if I scroll over right here, I can see, let me scroll down, of what some people hope to gain from today's workshop. So I like to learn the ins and outs of Google Classroom, basic knowledge. So as you can see here, we have a lot of different levels of educators with us. So some of you feel comfortable teaching this workshop. Some of you are comfortable with some of these different apps out here. You're solid. So So we've got some people let me teach the workshop. So perfect. I hope you guys feel comfortable and jump in and let me know how you do things. Because again, with technology, there's multiple ways to do things. How I share one way with you, it doesn't always have to be the right way. Just like when you work with all of these educators, whether they're in your school district, in your PLC, or other educators out there in the world, everyone might set up their Google Classroom a little bit differently. Is that fine? It sure is. You do what works for you. All right, so real quick here then, with this link here, when you opened up this slide deck, you might, if you want to, if you're working off of one device today, that's perfectly fine. You might want to exit full screen. Exit full screen should be here in the middle on a pop-up little bar, so that if you want to put two windows on your screen, you can. So on one window, you could have my screen, and then on the side of the other window, you could have your Google Classroom, if that works for you. So if I take this link here, the bit.ly link of this slide deck, and I put it in my personal Google account, what I can do now with this is I can add this to my Google Drive so that I can access it later. So right up here, do you see this triangle with the plus sign? That is the symbol for Google Drive. It lets you, when you click on it, it says, hey, do you want to add it to your drive? Yeah, I do. So if you want to add it to your drive, think of your Google Drive as a file cabinet. And if you click on the drive, you can put it in your file cabinet, and you don't have to put it in your folder. But let's say you want to be, you're an organized person, and you want to put it in a folder called Google Workshops or Summer 2020 Workshops, whatever it may be. You can create a folder if you don't have it here already. So how do I create a folder? So right here, I'm still in the slide deck. I went up here, clicked on the triangle with the plus sign. This adds this shortcut, this slide deck to my drive. So I can come down here, click on the folder, and give it a name. So if I want to name it Summer 2020 Workshops, whatever it may be. Once I give it a name, click on the white check mark in the blue box, and then it will create the folder, and I can add the shortcut there. So then later I can go back to my Google Drive and access this file. If you don't use your Google Drive, you could just come up here and bookmark it. Clicking on that star, it turns blue. I can put it on my bookmark bar. I can, again, with my bookmarks, I can organize it by folder. So for now, if you're not for sure, you can just put it on your bookmark bar, and then you can always change it later. So then you can go to your bookmark bar and access it from there. So if I went to a new tab, let's say I opened this later on, today, tomorrow, whatever it may be, if I click on my bookmark bar, I've got my file coming up right there. Okay, so that is how to add it to your drive or add it to your bookmarks. Again, if I went too fast or you're not for sure, feel free to put it in chat. Again, we've got people who will step up and help out, or you'll have the recording that you can go back to later to look at. So let me go ahead and close out of that. Okay. All right. Again, your ISB evaluation, you should, today's Thursday, I would think you should have it by Monday or Tuesday, if not tomorrow. Here on slide 3, I've got some links here for the Learning Technology Center. If you haven't heard of it before, feel free to go and check that out. Here's other workshops that you can attend through the LTC. I've got the link here for my YouTube channel where I will put the workshop recordings there for you. And real quick, a little bit about me. My name is Lisa Schwartz. This is my 22nd year in education. The first 19 years I did spend in the classroom teaching 6th through 9th graders. And majority of the time I did teach computers and computer science. We used Microsoft, And the last few years I was in the classroom, I did bring in Google so that I could learn it. The kids saw me not only as a teacher, but a learner, learning Google Classroom, learning Google Docs, learning all of the different apps out there within Google. So did I make mistakes? I did. And I learned from them. So do I still make mistakes? I still do. I am actually trying something new with you today. We'll see how it goes because I want to try to learn from it as well. And I'll explain that here in a minute. And then currently here, I'm going on my 3rd year working for the Learning Technology Center as a regional ed tech coordinator. Currently, I do cover 10 ROEs here in Central Illinois and work with the school districts within those ROEs. So if you want to, here's another link for the LTC. And then also here's my email. Feel free to email me and I will get back to you. I will tell you right now, I am behind on my email. So feel free, if you haven't heard from me within 24, 48 hours, email me again. But I do like to respond to emails in a timely manner. But right now, just like many of you, our schedules are very hectic starting back to school here. I'm working on all the remote learning plans and plan A, B, and C, or 1, 2, and 3. Our agenda for today is give you an overview here. We'll give introductions. If people feel comfortable, they want to introduce. If you want to introduce yourself, you can put it in chat as well. If not, I do have a slide deck that we will work on throughout the session this morning. I also have, we'll go over a quick overview of Google, and then we'll talk about Classroom Meet, and then also, again, questions throughout the day. I love questions, whether it's my students, whether it's teachers, because that's how we learn and grow. And then also, when you're asking questions, I know that you're trying to actively participate. So that's why another reason I love questions. So again, with the amount of people we have in here, probably the best way to ask questions is through chat right now. And again, if someone sees someone's asking the same question over and over again, feel free, unmute. You can talk about that, answer to that question if you want, or let me know what the questions are, and we'll see if I know the answers. If not, we'll send it out to the group, and feel free to have someone in the group share that answer as well. What I did here on slide 6, I've got an introduction slide deck that you will have access to edit. And I noticed some people are already editing it perfect. And it's just, here's another place you can introduce yourself. But the problem we run into here is that since we have over 100 people in this workshop, once you have 100 people on a file within Google and editing it, sometimes it'll freeze up. So do you have to do this right now? No. Hopefully I'll remember to go back to this later so that people can go into it. If you can get into it right now and you know how to do some of these things, go for it. You might be looking and say, Lisa, I have no idea how to insert a selfie or a video. Don't panic. We will help you. If someone will just remind me later that I'm not talking about it right now, that we'll do this later as we go throughout the session. But there is a purpose behind this also, to show you about Google Classroom on how you can share this out with your students. So again, if you feel comfortable doing that right now, feel free to go ahead and do that. Just start working on a slide. How do you know what slide to work on? Since I did push this out through a link to you, you guys are all showing up as anonymous animals. So right now, Heather's on slide 2 here. So don't select slide 2 to start typing, because Heather's already created it for herself. There should be enough slides here for you to select one that no one else is working on. And if you want to put anything else in here, you can. What I've just learned is, when I'm not knowing everyone's ability with Google, is start off with a template. But you don't have to follow that template. If you want to show us what you know, feel free to put that out there as well. But again, if you're a newbie, take a deep breath, don't panic. We will go over this here in a little bit. So if this was in the classroom and you were sharing this out through Google Classroom, you could see who was working on it by their initials or their picture. Some of you might see my picture on your screen on slide 4 that Katie's on. We also see the anonymous chipmunk. So Katie's the anonymous chipmunk here because I shared this link out through you, not to your Google account, but as a bit.ly link here that you're accessing it. So, and I might copy, or hopefully some of you will remind me to go back here and look at this. So we'll see how it will work with this amount of people in the workshop today. Here on slide 7 and 8 talks about the Learning Technology Center. If you haven't heard of it before, again, there's some other links there. If you know what I'm talking about with Google Classroom, you want to explore those links, perfect. Here on slide 9, this talks about logging into Chrome. Here, if you log into Google Chrome, this will give you access to all of your Google Drive, everything that you have been working on in your Google apps. So it saves automatically for you. You don't have to worry about saving it to your computer or internal drive. And then the other thing here, I'm not going to go into much detail because this might not make sense to you and I don't want to confuse you, but if you go up here to your Google account right here, you can have other Google accounts signed in at the same time. My suggestion, if you do have other Google accounts right here, make sure they're signed out so that you don't accidentally, when you open up another link, it doesn't go to another account. How I usually work with this when I'm in my different Google accounts, so here's my work account, here's my personal account, then I have another Google account at a school. And what I do, I usually just go and add people. So I don't know if you saw earlier, I went to my personal account this way. I've got it set up where my personal account signed into my Google Chrome. Then I also have, here's my personal account here. So I try not to have other accounts signed in with my other Chrome profiles. Again, that might not make sense to you right now, but some of you, if you are clicking on links and you're saying, well, I clicked on this link and it said it was automatically saving, it could have switched to a different Google account if you were signed in to a different Google account here. So here on slide 10, Google's mission, and then, you know, what helps with using all of these different apps out there in the G Suite for Education. It does cover 4 different, you know, the 4 C's. The 5th C you might have heard of is curating material. It does help with that as well. From the evaluation yesterday, some people said some of the tech jargon I was saying yesterday lost them. So if you hear me say something that you don't know, feel free to put it in chat and maybe someone else can answer that. If not, feel free, unmute and interrupt me at that time. One thing here, I did put this link in here, apps versus extensions. So people yesterday heard me say, you know, the words apps, extensions, and Eric Kurtz has made this awesome table about the difference between extensions, apps, and even add-ons. And here it just kind of walks you through what extensions and apps and add-ons are if you would like to learn more about those. I don't mean to intimidate anyone, but hopefully then the more you hear, the more you work with the different technology, that you will start using these words as well. So apps and extensions, if you need to know the difference between those, click on that link. And then here on slide 12 and 13, we've got the different apps out there that are available to you through the G Suite Apps for Education that you can use with your students. So again, there's tons of apps out there. Will you use them all? You may not. Do you know about all of them? You may not, but it does help for differentiation. So it's nice to see all of these different apps out there. Again, we don't need to know everything there is about all of these different apps. We can learn from others and see how others use them as well. All right, so again, thank you for people helping out in the chat. So Jennifer's asking, what is a bit.ly link for this presentation? Yeah, perfect. Why I created the bit.ly link, and Jacqueline, thank you for jumping in and answering her. I'll tell you real quick why I created the bit.ly link, because if I put, I know some of you are working off of two different devices. So you might have actually had to type in the bit.ly or the bit.ly link. But you saw when I shared the sign-in sheet, could you imagine if you had to type in that sign-in sheet into your Omnibox up here? Your Omnibox is what Google calls where you can put in your URL for your files. Your URL is like your web address. URL stands for Uniform Resource Locator. Do you need to know that? You don't, but in case if you wanted to know that, Uniform Resource Locator. But it's just the web address for the different files out there. So on the sign-in sheet, that's why I created the link here on slide 2, and you could just click on that. But if if you were just using one device, you could have just clicked on it from the chat. But if you had to type that in, you probably would have not been able, you would have made a mistake somewhere. So what I did here for the bit.ly link for this slide deck, all I had to do, when I came up here to share this slide deck, I made sure anyone on the internet with this link can view this. And how did I do that? The default, it will go to your Google domain for your school district. So whatever school district you're from, it will usually default that to your school district. Here, my default's always the LTC. But I change it, anyone with the link, so you can access it. And I made you viewers on this one. If I wanted you to edit this, I would have put editors, just like on the introduction slide deck, I put you as editor so you could edit that. And then all I have to do is here copy the link. And then I go, like Jacqueline said, go to bit.ly.com and I can go there. Well, I've added the extension, the bit.ly extension up here. And what that extension allows me to do is, since I've already, okay, there we go. It will create a bit.ly link for me. So again, the bit.ly link is just something you can type in instead of you typing in that long URL here. So could you imagine if some of you who are on different devices trying to type in this one for capital U, lowercase g, and so forth. So then this bit.ly then will create a bit.ly link. I can customize the back half here. So on this one, I think, did I name it GCM for Google Classroom and Meets, and then I put today's date. So all I had to do then was hit save and then copy, and then that's when I put it here on slide 2. And then I put it in chat. So again, if you're using the same device, you could have just clicked on that link, but if not, if you had to type that in, isn't that so much easier to type in than typing in that long link that Google has for you? And it's right up here in this Omnibox. So, and normally when you are pushing things out to your students, you will be pushing it out through Google Classroom or your whatever LMS, your learning management system, your school district is using. So great question, and hopefully that helped and isn't overwhelming anyone. Here on slide 14 then, what we're going to do, here's our Google Classroom overview. Again, some of you are new to Google and Google Classroom, some of you are not. So that's why another reason I went ahead and gave you the slide deck. You can go ahead and look through the slide deck and maybe go to the slides that you might not know about. And then also, usually throughout the slide deck, I've got challenges here that you can see, okay, I think I know about Stream, I can jump to the challenge here on slide 24. And here's a challenge that, I can do. If I know how to do it, then you can feel free to go to the next challenge. And how I've got the challenges, I've got the slides looking like this. I think I've got 3 challenges in here. And then if you keep scrolling all the way down, I've got some additional resources here towards the bottom. And then here's some things about Google Meet. Here's the additional resources. And then if we have time, I'm going to also talk about Kami today. So again, if you haven't heard about Kami and you think you know everything about Google Classroom, feel free to jump and look at this as well. And then feel free to jump in and tell us how you use Google Classroom and help answer questions as well. Okay, so setting up your class. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to jump into a new tab here and go to my Google Classroom. How do I go to my Google Classroom? Couple different ways. If I go over here to the waffle, now do you see I'm in Google Chrome web browser. I am signed in. If you don't see your waffle, you don't see your Google, either your initials or your picture, it may have the word sign in. You will want to sign in to your Google Chrome account, your Google account here. So if I go to the waffle, I can go down here to Classroom. Now, if you don't see Classroom, you can keep scrolling and see if it's there. You can move any of these if you would like to. So how do I move it? Let's say I use Jamboard a lot and I don't like to scroll down to get it. I can go to Jamboard, click on it, hold down my mouse, and I can move these different apps here within the G Suite apps for education. Again, if you don't see an app that you have there, check to see if it's here under more from G Suite Marketplace. And then also, especially if you don't see Jamboard, you might have to have your Google admin turn that on the back end. All the Google admin would have to do is go and give you access to it. So sometimes the Jamboard one, not all teachers have access to it, but again, the Google admin just has to turn it on the back end. So that's one way you can go to your classroom. Another way, you can always type in the different apps and go like classroom.google.com, docs.google.com, drive.google.com. I can type it in that way as well. Sometimes people even bookmark their classroom and put it on their bookmark bar and go to it that way. So again, 3 different ways. Feel free to put it in chat how you go to your classroom. There's more ways out there that people have it set up. Off of the top of my head, I know someone has it on their Symbaloo page as well. So, and then here is my Google Classroom. These right here are called cards. My cards here are the classes that I have. And how to add a class, all you have to do is come up here to the plus sign and add a class, create a class. When you create a class, the only thing that's required when you first create a class is a name. Later on, if you want to add a section, subject, or room, you can. You don't have to do that right now. But in order to create a class, it has to have a name. Okay. Another thing, if you are joining a class or students are joining a class, all you would have to do is come up here and click the plus and join a class. And whether it's you or your students to join a class, all they have to do is put in the class code. And I'll show you in a minute where the class code is. Could I have you guys join a class? I could if you were using your personal Google account. How school districts have it set up is majority of the school districts don't allow teachers and students to join other people's classrooms outside of their Google domain. Your Google domain is your, like mine is the ltcillinois.org. It's usually your school district's name in there, and it won't let you, for the privacy and security and to comply with all of the internet laws out there. You can't join usually classrooms outside of your school district. So when you go into classroom.google, you might have to set it up first. So if you've never gone to classroom.google.com before, then you might have to say you're the teacher and then answer some questions to get your classroom set up. So if we were a student trying to join a classroom, this is what you as a teacher would have to do. Come here to the class code. It's underneath the name, and right there the class code is right here. I can even make it full screen so that if I was projecting this in the classroom. Even during remote learning, if you have students join your classroom, you can share your screen and show them like this. You could even copy and paste it and push that out to their emails as well. So there's a variety of different ways that they could join their classroom. Now, you might be asking, can I join a classroom of my fellow teacher? Maybe a teacher I work with, I want to see what she does. You could join as a student on their class. You could also join their class as a collaborator if they want to give you access to their Google Classroom. So if they don't want to give you access, that's fine. You could join their class as a student. And I know, depending on everyone's background with Google Classroom, sometimes that's a good way to see what students see and how to interact it, how students interact with Google Classroom. Now, I just showed you how to join a class by clicking on this class code. Some districts they can sync their school information system with Google Classroom. Let me jump back here to the slide, and I forget which slide number it's on, but they're here on slide 49. And I just looked this morning, this is still the latest information that Google has put out there. So a year ago, it's in beta. I think some of they've maybe are going to roll out here and not be in beta here in August. Anytime you see any tech app, any app out there, or anything say the word beta, that means they're testing it out. That it might not look like it does today. So they're just trying to test it out to get data back on it to see how users are interacting with their app. So right now, here's some student information systems out there that sync with Google Classroom. So on the back end, if you have any of these student information systems, your Google admin could roster your Google Classrooms ahead of time, so you don't have to ask kids to join. So check with your school district on that. As you can see, it does say there's going to be more integrations to come. Again, when I looked this morning, I couldn't find any updated information. If anybody has any updated information out there, or you're Googling it now, feel free to put it in chat. Let us know if you have other information. I've got links here. If you've got Skyward, here's an article out there. Here's a Q&A about grades. Here's also an extension about transferring grades. So again, look at that if that is something that you want to see, if your student information system works with Google Classroom. Now, when you go into your first class, your homepage for that class is Stream. This class I've named Google 101. Right here on the, real quick, right here under the class code, this is the Meet link. What's nice about this, Google pushed this out in April in response to the remote learning that we were all forced to do. And this saved teachers time from going to create the Meet link and pushing it out maybe 5-10 minutes before class started. Because what's nice about this Meet link here is that if a student would go into this link right now, they would not be able to get into the Google Meet. So we'll talk more about that later, but if you want to learn about it right now, I do have it in the slide deck towards the bottom, towards the end of the slide deck. But I just want to show you here, you've got the Meet link here. Also here, you can select a theme, or you can even upload a photo. So if I go and select a theme, I can select a pre-made theme that Google has here. If I don't like any of those, Pat, did you need something? All right, I got some people, I'm hearing some feedback here. Is it showing up on your screen where that feedback's coming from? Okay. I think someone accidentally unmuted. All right. So I can select a theme that's there. If I don't like that, I could upload a photo, and I can select a photo from my computer and add that here. Here, as you can see, I added, created a Bitmoji scene in Google Slides and then uploaded it here to my title of my slide. Now, one thing I did notice when I transferred it over is the color comes in a little bit darker. I've tried to work with some other teachers on figuring out how to change the color. We couldn't figure it out, but if someone has figured out a way, feel free to drop that in the chat as well. So here on the stream also, I've got upcoming, so some things that are due today or due next week. I can view all. So this is the teacher view of the stream. Also on the stream is where I can share something with the class. This isn't where I put my classwork. That's for my Classwork tab. But if I just wanted to, you know, share a welcome message here or add, I can click here and add anything from my Google Drive, link, file, or YouTube here. If I wanted to add a video here that didn't go along with anything with the classwork, I could do that. You know, if I wanted just to add a funny video to get the day going, sure, you could do that right here and stream. So in order to share something in stream, you have to type something here with your class first. And then right up here where it says for Google 101, I'm in my Google 101 class. So this I can push out to my Google 101 class. If I want to push it out to multiple classes, I can. But watch what happens to students. So right now, when I just select one class, I've got all students here in my classroom. If I want this to only go out to certain students, I can just select those students, and it shows me 3 students will get this announcement. But if I want to go back and change it to all students, I can do that. Now, watch what happens when I select more than one class. My all students is grayed out. When you select more than one class, then you can't choose what students to send it out to. It will send it out to all of them. So just know that if anytime something is grayed out, it might be because of what you selected in a previous box here. So if I just select Google 101 and I'll send it just to certain students, then it tells me what 2 students I've got selected. So again, I can add a video here from YouTube. Let's say I don't have the video, but I know I want this video. I can search a video from Gary Brooks and select it and then hit add. If I already have the URL, if I've copied the URL or copied the link, I could paste it here as well. So either way, you could do that and add the video here. And then right now, if I want to, I can post it right away to the students. If I know that, you know, I want this to go out at 8 a.m. tomorrow, I can go here on this little arrow, drop down arrow here. I can post it right now, I can schedule it, or I can save it as a draft. If I didn't have time to finish completing it, then I can go and save it as a draft. But I'll go ahead and push it out. And then when I push it out, it shows me, this is the teacher screen, it shows me that what 2 students that I sent this announcement to. And then if I have it turned on, the kids could then comment back here and it would show right here. And I'll show you that here in a minute. Let's say you saw you made a spelling error mistake, or you want to add something else back in. You can come back here to the three dots. You can edit it, delete it, or even copy the link if you need to. You could copy the link and push it out. You know, put it in another, if you want to put it in your classwork, you can put that link in there as well. So how I've got my stream set up also, it will also say that, oh, Lisa Schwartz posted a new assignment called Google Slide. It's sent to 1 student. Posted a new assignment, sent to 11 students. If it doesn't say the student there, then that means I pushed it out to all of the students. So here, posted a new assignment, the fraction assignment, it's sent out to all of the students. If I wanted to at any time, you know, here's where I posted a comment, here's where Blake posted back hello. I can move this to the top if I want to. So at any time, if you want something in your stream to go back to the top, you can. Right now in stream, just like in some other apps out there, you can pin things to the top. I haven't found a way where you can pin it to the top. They just allows you to move to the top. So I know that's been a big ask from some teachers. Who knows, Google does listen, they change things all the time. So if that's a big ask of yours, then make sure you let Google know. The more the merrier, right? Also here on stream, you know, you might ask, well, what if I save it once I post some or write something here and I save it as a draft? Where does it go? Great question. Do you see where it says saved announcements? If I click there, this shows my announcements that I have saved as a draft. Now, if at any time that I want to go back and edit it and then post it, I can just click on it and put whatever information here I want if I need to add anything else, and then I can go and post it out right now. I've got, it just brings up the announcement back up where I can select who I want to send it to, and I can post it right away. If at any time I want to delete it, just hit the trash can. So right here, I can click on saved announcements, or I can click this drop down arrow and get the same thing. So earlier I talked about how I've got my, when I post a new assignment, it shows a condensed notification here in stream. You have control over all of this, how your stream is set up. So where is that? It's right here at the gear. So a gear is another place that you can go to get settings. And this is settings just for this classroom, for my Google 101 class. Here I've got my class name. Here earlier after I created it, if I want to go and put in more information here, I can. Here's my class code. If for some reason I don't want kids to join my class anymore, I could come over here to this drop down arrow and I could disable this code. I could even reset it. You might ask, well, why would I want to reset my code? A couple different reasons, in case if, you know, it's hard for kids to differentiate if that's an I or an L or an O or a 0, you might want to reset it. It doesn't, you know, kick anybody out of your classroom. You can copy the code if you want to send it out to the kids through email, or you can even then right here display the code from here. But if I wanted to, I could reset it. It just resets the code, gives me a different code. But see, sometimes that L is confusing, so I can just go here and reset it again and get yet a different code. And oh, I like that code, so that's the one I'll stick with. Also here on stream, I've got where students can post and comment. Now, what I have found with students with using this, even when we were face-to-face, that sometimes students, you know, in the beginning, I gave them a chance to post and comment and talk back and forth on stream to get used to it. Then over time, hopefully then they would use the stream to, you know, to reply back to posts that I have there, or to reply back to say, hey, I don't understand what you're saying, or I'm having difficulty with this assignment. Can anybody help me out there? During remote learning, some teachers have loved this, because if a student's working on some of their assignments at 11 o'clock at night and the teacher's you know, that's not the teacher's working hours, that's when the teacher sleeps, but that's when some of the kids are working, the students can post and comment using the Google Classroom stream. You can also have it set up where students can only comment, or teachers can only post and comment. So again, you know, you can make it a teachable moment. Would you maybe sometimes have kids who still would not listen and put gibberish out there or inappropriate comments? You could. There's a way you don't have to turn it off and punish the whole class just for one student. You can just mute one student, and I can show you that here in a little bit. Another thing here, classwork on the stream. I have it set up to show condensed notifications. I like that. I taught my kids to look in the stream that, hey, this is when I posted new assignments. Some teachers don't like that, so they can hide the notifications. Some teachers want to show all of the attachments and details, and you can. So here in a little bit, I'm going to give you time to play around with these settings. My suggestion, anytime you're going to go to settings, change one setting at a time, see what it does to your stream and how the kids interact with it. And if you like it, keep it. If you don't like it, go back and change it back. But this way, by changing one thing at a time, you'll know what you changed on your stream. There's some other things here on stream, and we'll talk about that as we get to them, but feel free to go ahead and look at them, or I will give you an opportunity to look at stream or the settings here later. So how I've got stream set up is I've got it where I have my condensed notifications on. And this is the condensed notification. If a student would go into this, they would click on it and they could see then the assignment. So let me switch to Blake here. And I've got an account set up for Blake. Most school districts don't give you a student account, but here with the LTC, I've got an account. Right now, that's been another ask, is teachers want to see what students see. So the only way to do that right now is by me having Blake's account here through the LTC. And so Blake can go into his Google 101 class. And so here's what Blake sees. And oh, he sees that the teacher put a good morning message out there. He can reply back and just click that arrow there, and he replied back, happy Thursday. It shows one class comment there. He can see that the teacher posted a new assignment, Google slide. So he can just click on here and go into the assignment right from here. And I haven't talked about the assignment, so don't panic, but I just want to show you from the student side of it that he can see that. So now what the student sees is they can only copy link. They can't move the stream around. If I go back here then to the teacher side of it, this is the teacher stream. The teacher can see, oh, Blake commented back. He's got one class comment. Now, if there's a bunch of comments here, it would say, you know, maybe 29 comments, and you can see them all. But let's say for some reason Blake is just posting gibberish. You've had talks with him. He's still, you know, not using chat the appropriate way. What you could do, you can delete what he puts out there, but then you could also mute Blake. What that allows you to do is not to take away the chat from your whole entire class. You can just mute one student. And when you do that, what can they do? When you mute them, they can still submit the work. They just won't, other students won't see it. They can't reply to classmates' work, and they can't comment or post. So here, you know, if I go back to Blake's classroom here, Blake, he can share something with class because I have it set up in my class settings that students can comment or post. So he could start a comment. He could add something here to the stream, add a file and post it. And he, as you can see, he's the one that started it. So then if you go back to the teacher side, let me reload. Then on the stream, then we should see, here's Blake started a new post. So then I could comment as well. All right, so that is a lot to take in. If I jump back here to my slide deck here, this kind of goes over things of what the students can see in stream. Again, students can see in the stream all work assigned through the classwork section. If you have that turned on, you can turn that off. So practice to see what you like. And then again, I've got these slides here that you can go back and take a look at as well. So if you go to slide 24, we will work on this challenge here. We'll also take a quick break if you need one. Again, even if we were in person, I would say, take a break whenever you need one. It's a little bit easier to do when it's virtual. But here on slide 24, what I'm asking you to do in your Google Classroom, go and play around by creating an announcement in Stream. Add a file from your Google Drive. If you don't use Google Drive, add another file from somewhere, or just practice around with it and post now. Do you have to do exactly what I say? No, but this is my way of, for especially the newbies out there, to give you a chance to practice with your stream. So feel free right now. I'll give you about 10 minutes here to play around with stream. Go check out your settings, change those up. Feel free to unmute, ask questions, go take a break as well. So lots of questions in chat, and I don't know if they've all been answered. So when we at 10:05, I will try to answer some of them if they haven't been answered. Did Christina Wu, did she get into the workshop this morning? I know I didn't get a chance to read all of them though. So again, if people aren't answering them, then let me know. And I always stay on at the end too, to give you time to ask questions as well. So I know I do, if you want to learn how to create a Bitmoji classroom, there's a lot of material out there. If you do go to my YouTube channel, I do have some recordings out there that I worked with, I think a school even earlier this week on Introduction to Google Slides, and we created a Bitmoji virtual classroom and walk through the process. But there's a lot of other great resources out there to use as well. So if you go to, again, my YouTube channel, you can see some other things out there. And people are putting in a lot of different materials there in chat. So going back here to Classroom, I saw one question that came up was that people were asking about your classes, using them from year to year. So the classes that you had from this year, I think some people said that they archive them, you can reuse them. So here's some tips and tricks. You'll see what works for you. Hopefully over, time, if you're using Google Classroom over many years, you'll learn to see what works for you. But another thing you can do is create a master class. So here I could create a Google app master copy. This is what I named it, 2020-2021. So here I can put down everything, all of my everything I want to use in my other classes, but this is my master copy. So this classroom, I won't have students join. I can just on the back end start creating the messages I want to put down or the assignments and classwork. So if I'm a very organized person and I want everything on the front end to be out there, I could go ahead and with classwork, go ahead and hit create and create my assignments here. And they won't be pushed out to students because in this master copy class, or I could put master class, whatever, the students, I don't have students join. This is where I can go ahead and reuse my post. An option you have here is reusing a post, and you can reuse posts from other classes. So here at my home page of my Google Classroom of all my classes, I can reuse posts from these different classes at any time. Now, someone asked about what to do with the class this year. I don't remember who, but someone answered to archive it. If you want to unmute yourself and talk about archiving a class and what that means, feel free to do that. Again, I don't want to put anybody on the spot. I know you answered in chat, but maybe not everyone saw that in chat. And I don't want to call anyone out. I don't know who talked about was it Katie? How you talked about archiving a class. Do you feel comfortable? Would you like to jump in and unmute yourself and talk about archiving a class and the purpose behind it?
Sure. I just have so many kids that switch at the semester. Like I have 4 sections of Spanish 1, and at the semester they always end up in a different hour. And instead of just going, oh, you need to go back to your 3rd hour class, I just find it easier to make a new classroom and archive it. They can still see everything they did from 1st semester. They just can't edit it necessarily or add anything to it. They can find it easy in their drive. It's really my juniors and seniors and like my level 3 and my AP classes that really go back and look for stuff. The other kids aren't that interested, but it keeps my page cleaner, I guess.
Yeah.
And okay, I haven't deleted things from like 3 or 4 years ago, but I don't look at them. And I do reuse my posts once in a while, but usually it's I'm creating for 1st hour and I know that I have 3rd, 6th, and 7th, and I repost from 1st hour instead of the master class thing. But that's a good idea. I might try that this year with life.
Yeah. And again, that's with technology, you've got all of these different ways to go about doing that. So then this way, if you create, a master class, then, if you change it before you push it out, you've got it right there. Let's say for some reason you have an ample amount of time to start creating your assignments. Instead of just saving them as a draft, you could have it in your master class. So that's good to hear. Thank you, Katie, for sharing. So how to archive a class. So let's say this Intro to G Suite class was this year. I don't need it for next year. I can click on these 3 dots here. Depending on which image you have there, the 3 dots might be kind of hard to see. But those 3 dots here, I can move, I can edit, I can copy this, or I can archive it. And like Katie was saying, when you archive it, you can still go back in and access and reuse posts from it. It just says this class will move to your archive classes. Class files will remain in Google Drive, but you just can't update this class anymore. Now, let's say you accidentally archived this and you thought, oh, I want it back. You can always go back and I think it says, does it say restore it? Yeah, it lets you restore it. So when you archive a class, where does it go? Great question. Click on these 3 lines up here. This brings up another menu. This shows you all of your classes, what you're teaching here. It also shows the calendar, and we'll talk about that here in a minute too. But my archive classes right here, click on that. And right here, this shows my archive class. So here's my Intro to Computer Science course. I can still go and see assignments. Like Katie said, I can still go and access the gradebook and the files on my Google Drive. But again, click on these 3 dots and I can restore this archived class. But so if you think you might want to see what you've done in the past, don't delete it, just archive it so it gets it off of your home page. And another naming convention, you know, like Katie was saying, she's been using Google Classroom now for 3-4 years. You might want to start putting the year up there, or if you have semester classes or quarter classes, you know, put what quarter it is so that if you remember, oh, second quarter I did something with the kids that I want to reuse the posts, you can easily go back to do that. So that's another thing. Some teachers want to keep their classrooms nice and neat, and they don't want the students to be overwhelmed. They may start a new Google Classroom each quarter or each semester, even if they have the same kids. It just, again, personal preference. You have that option to do what works best for you and your students. Another thing under here, under the 3 lines, we've got settings. So we had settings under the gear. This gear settings is just for this class, okay? And some of you maybe had time during the 10 minutes there to look more at settings and what else you can do and play around with it. If you go to this menu and go to settings here, this is for your whole Google Classroom environment. And what can you change here? You can go into your profile here. Notifications, this is the big thing. Now, you or your students may be saying they're getting tons of emails when you get new material. So right here for notifications, where it says receive email notifications, if I don't want to receive any email notifications for any of my classes, I can turn that off just with the click of a button. Because some people, they don't want to clutter up their email any more than it already is. So they can turn that off. If you like this feature, turn it on. Then you can choose whether you want each of these features on or off. So do you want to get an email every time someone comments on a post? Do you want an email with comments that mention you? So go through these, take a look at it. You know, the big thing teachers ask, well, how do I know if someone resubmits work or it's late? Right here, you can also get an email as well. I always told my students that, hey, anytime they resubmit the work, you know, I get notified, but in case if I miss it for some reason, just hopefully they say, hey, Mrs. Schwartz, I turned something back in. Did you have a chance to look at it? And then I could respond that way just for them to double check. Or, you know, they could send me a private message as well. But again, you are in control right here of what you would like to do. And same thing with kids. You can teach the kids about this as well. Class notifications here, you can also turn it on so that they get mobile notifications on their phone if they have it. So especially with, you know, the older kids that many of you are working with. So here you can turn those on or off as well. Any pros and cons that anyone has seen or, you know, experimented with here with notifications? All right, feel free to put it in chat or unmute yourself if you'd like to share any other tips or tricks that you have found that work for you and your students for the classes and the settings here. So going back here, one other thing I want to show you. Let's say, you know, when I first created this Google Classroom, I named it Differentiation Workshop. Does that matter that I change names midstream? Yes and no. No, it doesn't matter here. The kids see how I changed it. Yes, it matters on your Google Drive. So when I go to the classwork page, I've got some options here. I can also go to my Google Meet right here. I can go to my Google Calendar, and I can go to my class drive folder. Now, if I click on the class drive folder, I can see all of the assignments and the work here. Personally, I usually didn't go into my class drive folder to look at everything. I just looked at everything within the Classroom app, the Google Classroom app. But you have this on the back end. Google creates a folder called Classroom in your drive. So right up here, here's the pathway. So in my drive, Google created this folder called Classroom, and then they created a folder with my name of the class. Now, I originally named this classroom Differentiation Workshop. Later on, I changed it to Google 101. Again, that is perfectly fine, but I just either I would have to go into my drive and I can click on Differentiation Workshop and I can rename it. Google doesn't have an algorithm set up that it will rename every time I change my class name. It won't rename the folder. Can I rename it though? Yeah, it's an extra step, but I could rename it right here, rename it, and I can rename it to my Google 101 class. So I can do that, no problem at all. But I just wanted to let you know on the back end, if you see like, what is this? Why do I have this class in here? It's my Google 101 class, but I had changed the name of it. And then as you can see, I've got all of these folders in here of different lessons that I pushed out. It's a shareable view because when I go into this, then I can also see the students' work and what they are working on, even if they haven't turned it in. So that's another awesome feature of Google Classroom, that you can see what students are working on, what students might be having trouble with real time, whether you're face-to-face with the students or remote learning with the students. So if you're not familiar with Google Drive, how Google Drive is set up, again, it's like a file cabinet. I can put folders here. I've got my quick access turned on. You can turn that off if you want, but it's just what I've had open most recently. And then if I keep scrolling down, you might, once you created your classroom, you may see a classroom folder there. If you double click on it, here's all of your classes that you've got. Now, can you create folders in here? You can. What I did, I created a folder called Archived Classes. And when I clicked on archive, or to create a folder, I can just right click and create a new folder here. I could go up here and click new folder here as well. And I just created a folder archive class. So any of these classes that I've archived, I can just drag and drop in there. So it just cleans up my drive a little bit more under my classroom folder if I want. But all of these folders here, Google created on the back end for me, so that you see that they're shared with your students, because then when the students turn in their work, when they turn in this assignment for I Wonder, it goes right into this folder, I Wonder, under your class name. Again, it's on the back end. I personally didn't go to my Google Drive to look at this. I always accessed it from my Google Classroom, but you can do that. Anybody out there who goes to their Google Drive folder for their Google Classroom and access their work, the students work there a lot? If so, feel free to unmute and tell us your thinking and your reasoning to do that. Is that wrong? No, it's just how maybe you've learned, or just how your brain works. All right, so if you think of something, feel free to drop it in chat or unmute and share as well. So that's the class drive folder. Another thing here is Google Calendar. Every time you create a new class, you create a new calendar. You actually don't create it. Google creates it for you on the back end. So I can go to my Google Calendar right there, and it will show you my calendar here. If, as you can see, if there's so much stuff on there, you can turn certain calendars off. You can turn certain calendars on. So right here, I've got, it shows that I've got some assignments due. And right here, if it's just a little dot, when you go and push out assignments to the students, you can put a time that they're due. If you don't put a time, it'll just show this picture here that it's just, hey, you have this assignment due on the 8th. Here, you've got an assignment due on the 23rd, and it needs to be turned in by 11:58 p.m. So you can do that. You can come over here, turn on or off different calendars at a time. I know sometimes kids would pull up different calendars at a time and think that all of us teachers got together and decided to have a quiz or a test on, you know, the 24th or the 30th and say, what do you guys do? Do you guys all plan the same, you know, the day for all these quizzes and tests, so they could see that on their calendar. So again, this is the calendar app in Google Calendar. So you can access it from your classroom right there. If you don't want to access it from your classroom right there, you can always go, I always keep my calendar open. You can always go to your calendar and look at it here, and you can turn your calendars on or off. All right, okay, so we've got some people still filling out this Google Slides introduction, perfect. Again, didn't want all of us in there at one time since there were more than 100 of us in this workshop today. And I will still, if you want to learn how to insert a selfie or insert a YouTube video, you can. And Katie, kudos to you. You might be joining us right now, and you've got 7 children in the background. So hopefully you're able to learn some new things here right now. Okay, so going back here to the slide deck that you all have, was there any other questions about Stream that maybe you asked in chat and no one answered, or you just have any general questions about what I just covered right now, whether it was Stream, over the challenge, over the class settings? Oh, Tiffany asked a great question. Is there a way to keep names private? And so here in People, I don't think there is that function to be able to not see who's in the class. If someone else knows a way, let me know. If not, that might be, you know, something to push out to Google Classroom to let them know. Or Tiffany, another app you could use that I work with some social workers with on disseminating information is using Google Sites. And they can then, on the Google Sites page, they can share out, you know, information that they want the kids to see. You could even share out different slide decks, a syllabus, or different files that they can access from that Google site. So if that's something, if you haven't heard about Google Sites, if you want to stay on here, and I can talk to you about that once we're done with this workshop. And then if anybody else has any other suggestions for Tiffany, feel free to put that in chat. Another question, if you mute a student on the stream, will they still be able to submit work? They will. So if I go over here and I mute Blake, I can mute Blake right here, and I can delete this post if I want. They can still submit work. So I'll go ahead and mute him. And then when I mute him, it shows he's muted now. If I'm Blake, and Blake goes here to, well, I'll go back to stream. And do you see right there, you saw live, maybe if you were watching my it took away his ability to comment. It was there for a moment until my page refreshed, and then it took it away. So he can still go in and submit work here in Classwork. He can view his work, and let's say he's got this done. He can click on it, and then he can still turn it in. So I'm going to go over this, so don't panic. I'm just showing Samantha right now, or anybody else who wanted to know that. So he can still turn it in. Can he still do private comments? He can do private comments here as well. But class comments right here, it's turned off for only Blake because we muted him. Now let's say you've talked to Blake. He misses this access to be able to comment. He says he's learned about digital citizenship and what to use Stream for. And let's say you want to turn Blake back on. A couple different ways you can do that. Right here, if he has posted somewhere, you can unmute him there. But if you're not for sure where he's posted, don't go through your stream and look for him. Just go to People, the People tab. And here at the People tab, I can go down here to Blake. I'm clicking on Blake, the box to the left of his name, and where it says Actions, I can unmute him. I can email him, or here's another place if you need to remove a student from your class, you can remove a student as well. So let's say I wanted to mute almost everyone but a few people. I could come here, select them all, and I could mute them all or unmute them all. So you've got some choices here. So let's say if I wanted to mute Wendy right now, I could go here and mute Wendy from here instead of from the stream. So again, multiple places to do the same thing. For some of you, it might drive you nuts, but again, it helps since all of our brains think differently. So also here, while I'm on the People tab, some teachers like to invite the students. You can come up here and invite students, and you type in their name or email, but you don't have to do it this way. Remember, students can join your class by them typing in the code. So again, there might be reasons you might want to invite them, and if so, that's fine. You have that option here. And then also, earlier I said you could be a student in another teacher's classroom. Well, you could be a co-teacher in another teacher's classroom. So sometimes with paras, when I would have paras in the class, I would add them as students so that they could bring it up on their computer too. They didn't have to rely on everything the student was doing at that time. They could maybe look ahead and look at the directions and things on their screen and not always looking at their child's screen that they're working with. And the reason I made them a student instead of a teacher is because they didn't need any rights to add anything to my class. But I wanted them, again, to have that so that they could log in and see and hopefully help the child so much better by having it on their own screen. But if I wanted to invite teachers, I could invite teachers like this and type in their name or email. Again, it's probably set up where you can only invite teachers within your domain. So right now, Elizabeth is a teacher in my class here. And what can teachers do? Elizabeth can do everything. So if she wanted to mess with me right now, if she knew that I was in this workshop, she could go in and start adding assignments and classwork. She could start putting stuff in Stream. She can do everything I can except delete the class. So again, I know with some new teachers out there, they may be, if they're a collaborator in your classroom, they may do something and not realize that they did it. So if they're brand new, maybe ask them to, have them join as a student, give them the class code, or, invite them right here. And so they can see how you've got your classroom set up. So you've got that option there as well. So I see that you're talking about the email are all guardians. Now, when you invite guardians here, you do have to type in their name or email address here, and they have to accept the invitation. What I've noticed here with students, and I think the research says it too, that the older the child is, not not all parents accept the invitation for the classroom. So, and then if they do accept the invitation for the classroom, what all can they see? If you go here to your gear and to your settings, you've got Guardian Summaries. So what can they see? If you click on that See Example, and my internet is going way slow right now. Has there been any problem with my with the audio? You've been okay, hearing me okay? Perfect. So right here, this is what you can, the guardians can see if they accept the invitation. They can see missing work, they can see upcoming work, and they can see class activity. So as a parent myself, if I want to see what the kids are doing, I ask them to sign into their Google Classroom, especially during remote learning. I didn't wait for this email summary. I just had them pull up their Google Classroom and show me what they're working on. And I could see from there what missing work and upcoming work that they had. But I will tell you, as a teacher, when some of my parents, as a middle school teacher, again, the percentage rate of parents accepting the invitation was very low. But I did have some parents who did. And they would get, I remember one weekend on a Saturday, I had a parent email me and said, my child's missing work in your classroom. He's grounded until he gets this work in. Can you let me know as soon as he turns it in? And what I had to do was I had to apologize, because what I did when I would push out work to the students, I learned, at first I didn't always put the due date. But if the kids see that, oh, there's not a due date on an assignment, what do you think happened with the work? Did they do the work? They think, oh, I don't have to do anything. There's not a due date on it. And so then the kids wouldn't do it. So what I did and what I learned, and if someone else has another workaround, please share too, that I always had to go and put a due date on it. But if I saw, whether it was during remote learning or face-to-face, that the kids needed more time on this assignment, I could always push back the due date to be a day, 2 days, 3 days, or whatever it is, that you can change the due date even after you assign it. But so the Guardian Summaries backfired on me, because I did have a parent who stayed up on their child's work and had grounded their child because they had some missing work, and unbeknownst to them, I had changed the due date, but on their summary, it showed that they had missing work. So pros and cons to it, you have that option. Your district may even decide whether they use it or not. So the best thing I tell parents to work with, that they want to know everything going on in classroom, is have their child log into the classroom, and maybe their child can explain to them about Google Classroom and how they submit work and how they do work. So, but you do have that Guardian Summary there. The other thing then, I was reading chat there. So talking about the email guardians here, here's where you can add teachers. Again, if at any time I don't want Elizabeth to be a teacher in here, I can remove her. I can also make her the owner. And then here's another spot I can email her. Any other tips or tricks that anybody uses on the People tab? All right, feel free to drop it in chat if there is. But let's go to the Classwork tab. And when I click on Classwork, oh, it is showing my computer. Hold on 1 minute. It is showing my computer is not plugged in.